Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm going to silence my phone because nobody needs to hear sad trombone when my family's texting.
I
Okay,
thought that was what happened after you hit record. I was like, wow.
no, that's my family text is sad trombone when my family, no reason behind that. Anyway, okay. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining the Anti-Racism Commitment Coalition for another Community in Action discussion. ARC is a coalition of dedicated people committed to eradicating racism and spreading anti-racism throughout our communities, our country, and the world. Through our online resources, podcasts, and events like tonight's Community in Action discussion, we hope to learn and grow together as we do the continuous work of transforming into anti-racists. As a reminder to those who are just joining, we are going to be recording tonight's discussion and we'll be posting it onto our website as a resource for other ARC members. So tonight, we are joined by some incredible students from both Minnesota and Florida to share their truth about what schools are teaching or leaving out of their education as it relates to Black history and the true American history of the principles of its founding. It is a coincidence. It is no coincidence that on this last day of Black History Month, we're discussing education, because if you've noticed recently, certain states are introducing and passing laws prohibiting the teaching of specific topics and banning these same books from school libraries and classrooms. So before we jump right into having this discussion with our participants and students, for those of you who aren't as familiar with what is going on, I just wanted to take a few minutes to highlight some of the groups that are promoting these ideas, what the legislation is looking like, and I guess what you can expect within your own state, because these laws are not just in one state in particular, they're being boosted throughout other states throughout our country. So one of these groups, it's a national group called Moms for Liberty. And this is sort of a right-wing group that is funded and being promoting these laws that are going into effect that are banning topics on racism and slavery, and they're touting them as laws that are for parental rights and education and individual freedom. So some of the bills, for example, in Florida, I think they call it, is it the anti-woke law? Is that, yeah, that's the term they're using. So it's a 30-page bill and it limits training for employees and lessons for students that violate any of the concepts about race and racism that are listed in this 30-page bill. Prohibited concepts include that an individual should feel guilt or anguish because of their race, that someone is inherently racist because of their race, or teaching that, that racial color blindedness is a bad thing. So this is these bills that are being passed in certain states right now, it's basically cut and paste. And in other states, these Moms for Liberty groups are introducing these to their legislatures, hoping that they'll start passing these same laws in other states as well. And what's the troubling about these bills is that the concepts in these bills of what's banned discussion are so vague that it leads to self-censorship from teachers, because they're preemptively avoiding any of these lessons because they don't want to get in trouble for violating these laws. And some of these laws are even resulting in one of the laws, for example, I think it was Manatee County, excuse me, some of them were saying that it could be considered a felony of the 3rd degree for teachers to provide some of these educational materials or teaching these types of topics in their classrooms. One of the other things I guess I wanted to, one of the other things I wanted to mention with respect to these bills is that it's also not just what topics are being taught, but also what books are available to students within their district libraries or within their classroom libraries. So certain bills are requiring that any books that are in a school have to be selected by an educational media specialist, and they have to review every book and make sure it's appropriate before it can be allowed to be passed on to students. So a lot of these schools are actually basically removing their books from their classrooms, or basically, I think I've seen them, they like paper them off and not allowing students to check out any books because they're afraid that they're going to get in trouble because of these bills. And lastly, this one, I'm going to quote this directly, and I know law topics are really kind of dry, but I found this one really important and kind of disturbing as far as what this bill is stating. So it said, with respect to instructional personnel can facilitate discussions and use curriculum to address in an age-appropriate manner how the freedoms of persons have been infringed by sexism, slavery, racial oppression, racial segregation, and racial discrimination. But it says, however, classroom instruction and curriculum may not be used to indoctrinate or persuade students to a particular point of view inconsistent with the principles of this subsection or state academic standards. So what they're telling students and teachers is that, no, you won't get in trouble for teaching this. What the problem is they're saying you just can't promote a certain
meeting about racism.
Opinion in the
I'm not even
classroom.
joking, bro.
So you can teach about anti-racism and slavery, but you can't promote
I think ARCC is like
the idea that
actually, oh, it's a fucking huge cage, bro. Nah.
Oh, I think someone needs to get off mute.
Okay, so just to summarize, so the way they wrote the law, it says that, you know, you can teach about slavery and racial oppression. However, you cannot use your curriculum or instruction to indoctrinate or persuade students to a particular point of view, meaning you can't be using, teachers can't be using their educational platform to persuade students that slavery is bad or that the Civil War was because of slavery. Like that's, you know, that's indoctrinating students, and you can't make white students feel bad about themselves. That's bad too. So that's just some of the highlights from some of these bills and what they're trying to do within our schools. And since we're talking about schools and education, I thought it would be very important for us to hear from today's students what they're learning or not learning in their schools, if they're hearing or noticing a difference in their schools with what's allowed to be taught, and if they're getting pushback from their teachers or from administrators, and also what steps, if any, are you guys taking to sort of combat this, and what do you find works well in your schools or amongst your peers to help share and learn and promote this idea of teaching the full history and of the United States. So maybe I'll start with, since Adonai is, I think, is Adonai still on?
Yes, I'm still here.
There you are. Okay. So Adonai is one of our resource group members, and she's also a student here at the local high school in Minnesota. And I'll give her the floor to her and some of her classmates, and then maybe we'll switch it over to Lynn's students, and we can just go from there.
Yeah. First, I just want to make sure that we all introduce ourselves. So I brought some students from my school, and they're friends of mine, and they're also leaders of the social club that we have at our school called Student Organization Against Racism. So if Fatu and Charlotte, if you guys would like to introduce yourselves, say what grade you guys are in, and if you guys want to start it off.
Hi, my name is Fatu, and I am a junior at Chaska High School, and Adonai, you can start it off for now.
Hi, I'm Charlotte, and I'm a junior at Chaska High School.
Okay, so the question was just like, what are we being teaching at schools, and like what's being what's lacking, correct? Okay, So I feel like in Minnesota schools, it's not really much like talked about it much. Like I feel like in Florida, like what's going on right now is very like overtly, like everyone can see it, like it's happening right in front of their faces. But I feel like in Minnesota, it's the same thing is happening here, but it's just not in front of our faces, and people are not knowing that things are being restricted from us, which is also really bad because we don't know that's actually happening. But through our own research, and SOAR does a lot of like individual research on unknown, like let's say like for Black History Month, we did unknown African American artists. Like we've always been taught about, let's say, Harriet Tubman, right? But we're trying to research like African American artists that we don't know much about. So, and histories and cultures that we don't know much about that have been covered from us. So I feel like when talking about the history curriculum, I personally have had like lots of experiences where things have been restricted from me in teaching. Like, for example, in middle school, I use this example a lot, but it really shocked me when I was learning about the history of Ethiopia. And I remember them telling me that Ethiopia was colonized by Italy. And if you guys didn't know, Ethiopia is like a completely independent country right now. And they told us that Italy like colonized Ethiopia, and like that was the end of the story. So there was obviously a disconnect in the story. And I talked with my teacher, and I was like, me and my friend talked with our teacher, and we were like, that's not true. Ethiopia was never like completely colonized by Italy. Like we're an independent country, one of the only African countries proudly not to be colonized, right? And he was just like, that's what the history curriculum told me to teach, so that's what I'm going to teach to you guys. And after that point, I was like, I don't know what to trust anymore. I don't know what I'm learning is correct. So I've been doing a lot of research on my own to learn the history of the world. So I feel like things like that are not overtly shown to us in Minnesota schools, but are like embedded in the history curriculum that are not being shown to us is like the things happening in Minnesota schools. So does Fatu or Charlotte want to add on to that?
Yeah, I feel like in Minnesota, like a lot of the things they choose to educate us on is very discreet and it's very low key. So like we could have like a unit on like Black history, for example, but like it would be like they'll like brush over it and not go in depth. And with like, I don't know, like times we like learned about like slavery and stuff in like US history, it was never like talked about in depth. It's more so like, hey, you should know this, and then we move on to the next subject. Yeah.
I know you're both, freshmen and juniors. I'm sorry, I just wanted to have a follow-up question, and then Charlotte, I'll let you go. I'm sorry. Do you notice, is it certain characters? Is it more violent aspects of the history that they just don't want to teach? Do you feel like, is that the reason why? Or like, for example, is Malcolm X taught in Black History Month in Minnesota?
Not at all. What, I don't know. It's not, they don't even teach about Black history, if we're being honest. Like even like situations like the civil rights movement and like slavery, they're like, hey, this happened, and here are key figures like Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King that you should know, Rosa Parks, and that's literally it. It's like those three people, and then after that, it's like, hey, let's learn about this subject.
Yeah, I could relate because I'm in like US history right now. And when they like talk about slavery, it's like one small section, and we literally like write one sentence or like two sentences on what slavery was, and then move on to the next topic that's more important, like a battle or a war in like World War I or something like that. Like that's more important than the history and culture of what we've done. So I feel like that balance is there.
We also have students on from Key West High School, and I'd be really interested to hear your point of view and what you're being taught.
Okay, so I found it funny that they mentioned the same like three people that we always talk about. It's like Ruby Bridges, Dr. King. It's like always the same three people. And I
Valerie,
remember when I was in.
Can you introduce yourself before you speak? If you'll introduce yourself, please.
Oh, my name is Valerie, and I'm a senior. Okay, you understand? Okay, so they always talk about the same three people, five people, and it's like you see it every year. And then I think it was my 7th grade year when it was, my teacher's name was Mr. Mayo, and he was from Hawaii, and he was the first person who taught me about Emmett Till. and I didn't know not a thing about like any other, like obviously I've heard of other people, but like hearing about Emmett Till and then like us watching like a documentary on him, it was like wow, like there's other people out here and they're only showing us like the people that were the faces of Black history, but when there's like things beyond that. And like right now currently I took last semester AP US history, and yeah, we did brush over like Malcolm X and all that, but we never went in depth. We usually never go in depth. And I like how, I don't know who mentioned it, but they said like how what's going on in Florida right now is like, how do you say it? Okay, so like what's going on in Florida right now, we're supposed to know what's going on, but since like we're in Key West and like we don't have clubs, like our clubs are like standard. We don't branch out. Like nobody explores different, like we don't explore. So everybody's sheltered down here. And so whenever like this new topic about like AP Black history being taught, like I'm gonna be honest, most of like even I didn't even know like what was really going on until I was told to like read about it. Okay, I'm done.
Deidre, could I ask you to touch on what we did for Black History?
Hi, my name is Deidre, and I'm a junior. At our school, we didn't have anything for Black History Month. It kind of just got brushed over. Our school focused more on Valentine's Day than they did the history of African Americans, and I just feel as though like Florida schools especially, but like smaller Florida schools like ours have like kind of like brushed over the fact that that this bill has been passed, and I lost my train of thought. That this bill has been passed, and can I get back to you? Because I just lost my train of thought. Okay.
Charlotte, did you want to talk to? Sorry, I had interrupted you before, so I want to give you your time as well.
I was having a hard time like turning on the mic. I like barely use Zoom. But I was gonna say like even for Thanksgiving, there was like stuff that we don't like really talk about. And we had this discussion in our club store, and it was like half the people in that class, I mean in the WIN didn't even know anything about Thanksgiving or like the like what actually happened. And it's so crazy to me because it's like a big thing in our like society, and the fact that no one teaches it is like really, I don't know, it's crazy. I feel like more people should know, and I feel like it should be a more obvious thing. And like that shows me that they don't really teach anything. Like they just gloss over stuff, and even my siblings were talking about that, like how when we learn the Black History unit, it's like really like fast and quick, and it's like not, it's like, I don't know. It's like we don't really get anywhere with it. It's like, hey, here's Martin Luther King, and then like all the good stuff about America basically, and not really the bad stuff. Like I feel like we should learn everything instead of just like the little things.
Maybe I'll pose this question to the students. If you could, like your ideal Black History Month or just your ideal curriculum in general, like what topics, what people, what do you wish they would teach? I mean, let's maybe start a list of what you want to see or what you wish, for future students, what it should look like, what you want to see taught, what you want to learn.
So SOAR, like we really like focus on trying to make like the school more of a community and talk about culture and talk about all different types of culture. So every time we have like a month where it represents a culture, like a specific group, like let's say Hispanic Heritage Month or Native American History Month, we try to highlight that in our school and make sure that like we've done like a mural for Hispanic Heritage Month and Native American Heritage Month. We did a mural for that. for Black History Month, we did announcements with like music in the backgrounds, and we're planning to do like an art showcase this month, I mean March, but we're trying to do a lot of things where we're like just trying to promote it and show the student body, the culture and the history. And I feel like a lot of times I feel like we're doing all that work, right? We're just like a small group of, let's say like 30 students that are trying to like make this whole big change in our school where like everyone gets to learn about cultures and histories and community, which is really good. But I feel like we need more support by the admin, and that should also be the admin's job to make sure that all the students feel safe at school. It shouldn't be 30 students' job to make everyone feel safe at school and to make like everyone learn about it. Like, why is it our job to teach other students? I mean, it's really fun for us to do that. Like, we would love to be a part of that change, but we shouldn't be the only ones doing that. And I feel like that's where the disconnect is. Like, teachers should be teaching that in their classrooms. Teachers should be incorporating diversity in their classrooms and teaching about their cultures on a daily basis. It shouldn't be something like, it shouldn't be a unit to teach diversity. It should be spread apart in our curriculum. It should be a thing that we do on a daily basis.
To add on to what Adonai said, I hate that it's just like a specific segment of like units whenever they're learning or whenever they're teaching about other like ethnicities or races. It's like, because we learn so much about white history, it doesn't matter what like era we're learning about. Whenever it comes to another group of people, it's like, oh yeah, let's spend these 30 minutes of this class period learning about these people, and then we'll go on to like the real history. It's like, it's very frustrating, and I feel like it would be much better if they diversified the curriculum more, and like rather than learning about all these traumatic experiences, like civil rights movement, for example, it's like, hey, look at how all these people were mistreated. And then they refuse to like showcase the positive aspects of like what has happened. And like, even for like, I'm gonna continue later. I don't know how to communicate this.
Can you ask the question again?
Yeah, it was, if you could create like your ideal, like Black, not just Black History Month, but just like your history curriculum. I mean, what things that they're not teaching you right now did you wish they would teach about? Like, for example, when she mentioned the civil rights movement and you talk about all the bad stuff, but I mean, for example, learning about how Thurgood Marshall and the lawyers brought the cases to develop the Brown versus Board of Education that finally ended segregation in schools. Like, there was a whole process and how they methodically went about that in the court system, which is inspiring. And I feel like I just learned about that last week from some research article I read, and it's like, I never knew anything about that. So like stuff like that, like what would you wish you could learn in school?
Yeah, I think just like Adonai said, like just everything. Like, I just want everything to be there. I don't want anything to be excluded. I even like the trauma, because we kind of need that to like to show the truth. And even like the good stuff, I want everything to be shown, I guess. Just like how they do it in like American history.
Deetra, were you going to say something?
Yeah, like how the other girls said, we touch base on other races such as white and Spanish culture and stuff like that more frequently than we do Black culture, because I feel as though like since we were victimized and we came back, we were taken from our homeland and everything was so negative towards Black people. I feel as though people view it as a negative thing, like, oh, Black history was so bad back then. But if you go back like and look, we were kings and queens when we were where we were. Like, I want to learn about how we were royalty and how we were like the highest of the high, instead of such a negative like annotation towards us, and how Black people are portrayed towards other races. So yeah.
I agree, Deetra. Like there's always like TikToks that go around during this month, and it's always like when the white teacher starts talking about Black history and all the kids start looking at you, and it's always because like they they're never talking about accomplishments. It's always like, oh, like this person was this or this person was that, and it's never like achievements. It's always trying to not bring down or show. It just shows what we haven't accomplished. You know, they always bring up what like hardships we had, and yeah, there was like a lot of hardships, but there was also like accomplishments that people have gone through, but we don't really learn about that either. So
I know, and I think it's really interesting that, you know, when I think of the civil rights movement, and all the good things that came out of it, they just didn't benefit Black people. White people benefit from every opportunity that Black people have gained. And so that needs to be stressed, that, you know, that everything that we've gone through, whenever it feels like we've gained, so have they.
Yeah, white women especially. But that's a whole other topic.
Lyra, I know that you had some comments that you wanted to make.
Hi. So I wasn't really expecting to speak, so sorry if anything comes out like unplanned. But I feel like okay. So I feel like we were never really inspired to learn about Black History Month or anything until we got to high school. Like it wasn't something like in middle school where it was ever really brought up. Like just now in high school, I'm like discovering even things about taking like AP classes. Like right now I'm looking through my AP book, just realizing like how much misinformation, how much we're not learning in it. And I just feel like now that I'm in high school, I'm actually discovering things about like colonization and stuff, and just like how much like people have suffered because of, and I think also we like have we haven't really made us like a team, like people haven't associated like Hispanic people and Black people together, and we're kind of just like these separate things when really we're in this like really big fight together, like dealing with the effects of colonization. And it's just not taught in school. And like me, like in I guess my culture, like Hispanic people, like I don't really like see the association. I didn't start seeing it until I started taking classes, like and learning about colonization and all these things. And it's just like kind of like a culture shock. I don't know, just realizing these things. And it's just mind blowing that like I didn't in school, and like just overall like the culture, like there's so much separation between us when really we're like in this big fight together. And I feel like other people like kind of try to push us against each other in other groups. And I just want to, it just feels like, yeah, that's what I can add. That's all I can add right now.
No, that was wonderful. Thank you.
I'd like to say something. Hi, my name is Emily. I'm a senior at QS High. So I took AP US History last year, and I agree with everybody when they said that a lot of things were brushed over and like it wasn't like gone into depth with. And the thing about AP is that there's a lot of timelines and So when my teacher specifically stressed on how we have to remember the timeline and what specific events happened in the timeline. Not like we didn't really go in depth of like everything that happened with like everything, and it was more of the fact that we had to know the name and the date. That was it.
So nobody asked, you weren't allowed to ask why something happened, or it was just this happened?
If you were allowed to ask questions, but not a lot of people ask the questions because it's like they're afraid to speak up, and the teacher just tells the material and we take a test on it. That's about it. We don't really go into detail about anything, really.
And I was in class with Emily when for AP US history, and like there wasn't really questions to ask, if that makes sense. Like there were questions that you could ask, like, is this going to be on the test or whatever, but it had nothing to do with Black history. So nobody had questions to ask, because everything that we were studying and looking over was in the books. And like honestly, the test itself had no Black history on it either. The exam had like nothing. It was always just dates and names. So like being in an AP class and like you want to ask a question, but like it has nothing to do with the content that you're learning at the time. So asking the question, yeah, it benefits you for the long run, but no one's gonna ask it because it's not what we're being taught, if that makes sense.
Ileani, I thought you had something. Yeah, I thought you did.
So hi, I'm Eliani. I'm a junior at QS High School. And to add to what Valerie and Emily were saying, usually when you ask a teacher about like certain Black history facts, most of the time they don't know the answer to it. So when you do have a question, they don't have the answer to that question. So they either tell you to look it up or they'll get back to you, but at the end of the day, the question stays unanswered.
Hi, sorry. I was thinking I might offer my perspective as well. I'm also a student. I go to Breck, which is an independent school. It's smaller. It's in Minnesota. I'm a senior this year. And I guess like being an independent school and like smaller, all those students I feel like students around the country, like from Key West to like Minneapolis, we all share the same like agency for, advancing our school and stuff. And I think being at a smaller school has allowed these like requests from students to come into fruition. But I think like, the sentiment that Ad and I shared earlier, that it was like a lot of it is on the students of color, is like the same, no matter the setting, that it always falls back onto the students of color and, their willingness to step up. And, like she said, it's cool. Our school does like affinity presentations and things like that for students to share our culture. But, students get burnt out, and it's difficult to ask these like 17, 18 at most, students to like always show up and always be like, sharing vulnerable aspects of themselves. And at Breck, like there have definitely been like great advances throughout the years. Like just this year we have like a class called like Black American Literature that is like dedicated to, Black history. And we have like big presentations and like a lot of speakers come in for Black History Month. So it's definitely like very progressive, and we have this like, and it's sad to say that like this is a privilege, that not every student gets to experience, and like that's the sad reality of it. But being on this side and being able to experience, like the privilege of, celebrating Black History Month as a school, like, there still is like room to go, because there's a lot of white students that can just sit out, that leave, or like go on vacation during like MLK Symposium week that we like set aside, where we talk about like tough topics. And I think it's just interesting on that, how we can like change a whole culture around it, and how like moving it towards like administration and how they can kind of ensure that students are taking it in, is like, I feel like the next step for us. I think it's like, the students have stepped up, and I think it's like, it's just hard to see like our peers being not receptive to any of it. Like, as much as like our school has advanced, it's still possible in our school to be, a white student and just not take any of it in. Like English class is a lot different than Black American literature. You can just choose the English class and not have to talk about it. So I think it's like making it, this like omnipresent throughout the school culture is like crucial. And it like, I never want to discount the like advances we've made, but you know, there's still more. And it's like, even at this level, there's still more we can do. And yeah, that's all I had to share. Sorry, kind of rambled on.
No need to apologize. That was really great perspective. Thank you,
Yes,
Sarah.
very.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that, Sarah. Thank you for sharing. But I just wanted to say, like, I always thought it was really cool when I felt like students, or like students from other schools, or like schools who had like classes or courses that had like, oh, like Black American literature, or like a specific type of like literature, like focusing on a specific group. I thought that was really cool. And I'm like, I would definitely do that. But now that you state that and the issues that come with that, I definitely think that's really true. Like, it should be integrated. Like, Black American history, like that'd be really cool to be separate, but like it should be integrated in literature as well, so people all over can talk about it, and so it's not like just restricted. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, just making sure that it's more like omnipresent, like you said. Like, that's really important.
And like, to add on to that, like, even when we do have discussions about like race and like critical race theory stuff in like an English class, like, it oftentimes is just the people of color talking, like, which is like really frustrating too, because, you know, I just, once again, falls back onto the students, which, you know, sometimes just isn't possible at all times. And like, it just isn't like, yeah, it should be like in the institution and with admin and enforced in some other means that is like more supportive. Yeah.
Can I ask a question, especially of my kids? Do you guys and my students, especially my students of color, do you all feel supported by administration? And if not, what do you think you can do to change that?
I've noticed that even though administration, it's not that they're prohibiting it, but they're also not taking enough action to incorporate Black history. For example, last year I asked my one of my AP teachers why we didn't have a African American studies or any in that area, and she told me it was because we didn't have any teachers. But like, there's ways that you can find teachers to get to teach these studies. There's a lot of people in Key West who would love that position to be able to teach that, There's also teachers at school who know a lot about African studies and Black history and all that stuff that could be in that position to teach other Black students this information. So I feel like if administrators at our school wanted to, they would. But I feel like because they don't want to make certain people feel left out, they don't incorporate or do enough for that to happen.
To Eliani, I feel like since like most of our school, like I feel like having Black teachers, and they benefits us too. Like, if we did have Black teachers, because last teacher I had was in 3rd grade, and he was a computer teacher. So like the teachers that they have now, or like the Black teachers that they have now, they don't really, even though they have the degrees and the qualifications, they put them with like parapro and substituting teachers. So like, they're with kids that don't care, and they're just with kids where they could be teaching like what they went to college to study for. Like,
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I feel like that's also part of the solution, like having more diverse teachers. I feel like they can, diversify the teachers, because I actually have only had one person of color that was like my teacher, and she was only my teacher for like a semester. And she was even sharing her struggles with being like an Asian American math teacher, right? A lot of times she told us like her struggles of like, people would think that she was like the lunch lady or like the custodian when she was walking around the school, because they wouldn't believe that she had like a PhD and she was a math teacher. And I was like, that's crazy, because you're literally like the first person of color teacher that I have ever seen, and I have ever literally had. So I feel like that's part of the problem, is not having diverse teachers and teachers of color in the classrooms to enforce that diversity.
I agree. I know when I first moved back to Key West and I applied with the school district, and even though I had a degree, the only position I could get was as a parapro. And I was assigned to a 1st grade class, and my job all day was to walk around, was to there were two little Black kids in the class who were, okay, the little girl spit on me the first day. And the little boy didn't do anything but play with string all day. And my job was to manage them so that the teacher could teach the rest of the class. So in most days, I just walked around the school with them until I decided, you know, number one, I'm tired of walking. And so it got to the point where my job is to now get them back in the classroom where they belong and get this teacher to figure out how to manage her classroom with these two kids, because they deserve the same education as everybody else in there. But you're absolutely right. When we apply, all of a sudden there are only parapro positions available. So it's.
I think also a part of the problem could be just our generation, because not everybody takes it as seriously as obviously we do. But yeah, it's the administration. Yeah, they should, like do more, because we barely, like in elementary when we did like the little colorings for the Black History Month, we barely even did that. Like we didn't like speak anything about it this whole entire month at our school. And so I feel like even if like our administration did, like some students are just like making a joke out of it and it's not funny, but they like don't take it as seriously as they should.
I don't know who said it. I think it was Eliana, but I feel like the fear of like hurting the other children or like making them feel uncomfortable is like holding us back. Because I feel like that's what administration does a lot. They like fear the fact that they might make the other children uncomfortable, instead of like looking at the fact that the children who are of color are like struggling in the school.
In our administration at our, a lot of them don't care, and then the ones who do care, their voices are suppressed. So it just like, it makes it seem like there's no one out there for us to like, someone that's willing to support us, and like that's, what's the word, like looking out for our education and the way we feel comfortable in schools and like welcomed. But yeah.
Adding on to what Jasmine said about like this generation, the administration at my school, at least, they're so focused on getting the kids out of the bathrooms from like vaping or like doing whatever they're doing in the bathroom. So like the focus isn't near what it's supposed to be near. It's like their focus is like getting these hoodlums in their classroom so they could at least sit down and pay attention. So like part of it is like administration, but part of it is this our generation, like, because the students just, they do what they want, and we're like on this island, we're sheltered, so most of the things that are going on, we don't know what's going on, and we won't find out what's going on because that kids in the bathroom doing whatever they want, where they like it's just they're putting time into something that could be somewhere else. Exactly. Like at our school, I feel like we have more assemblies about like our behavior, or like what we like say in class, instead of like in the important things that are going on. Yeah, I agree.
I would like to add on to that about how us students, like when we ask questions in class about Black History Month, one time I asked my teacher about why can't we learn more about Black history? He said, how about there's slavery in the history books? We should be happy that we're even included. And he said that everybody was a slave, even white people. And I said, but it was worse for the Black people, but he said, it doesn't matter.
And that's probably why so many students probably have behavioral issues or don't want to go to the classroom, is because you have teachers that say stuff like that. And I don't blame students for not being, engaged in a classroom if that's what they're being taught. Sorry.
I have a question for Adonai. So how did you start your group on campus, your anti-racism group? And also, do you have, and forgive me for asking it this way, but I don't know, do you have a target on your back?
Okay, that's a good question. So basically how I started was Charlotte and me, we're just like, it was a conversation. At first started as a conversation, and her sister was telling us about like basically the past racism that they had at our school, right? And then Charlotte and me were like, we should probably like, create a club or something like that. But it was just a thought in the back of our heads, and school was starting, so we're just gonna start school and go on with it. So it was like the first month of school, there was an incident where somebody said the N-word, and we were all like outraged, obviously. And the way they handled the situation was like so bad. And so we decided to let it pass. We're like, okay, that's fine. This is gonna happen. Then it happened again in the middle of the year. And we're like, okay, we can't just go through the whole school year and just like watch these things happen again and again. So I decided to create the club and submit the form, and I got some people to join me, like Batu, Charlotte, and we got a group of 7 leaders to join the club. We started an Instagram account, and we were able to submit a form that basically allowed us to be a club if we had 5 or more members. And then we started an Instagram account where we got a lot of support of people who wanted to join. And we have these things called win sessions. So every week we have weekly meetings. They're around 45 minutes to 40 minutes, and we do fun activities and stuff like that. So I definitely feel like that's the thing. When talking about the target behind our back, there's not really necessarily like a target, but I feel like it's pushback, like from the admin, for example. Like we'll have meetings with the admin, right? And they'll be like, oh, we're like so willing to support you and stuff like that. But like they don't even respond to our emails, for example. Or like they'll say like, oh, do you want to meet? And then we ask them for something, and then they're like, oh, we'll get it for you. Nothing happens. I remember last year we were trying so hard to get funding, and they kept denying it and giving us excuses. It was really bad. We tried to make an event. It was like a potluck, a cultural potluck, and they were like, people could get food poisoning. It was the lamest excuses ever, and we were just like, they're trying to like make valid excuses for us not to do these events and to not become a bigger thing, because they can see the potential in us, that we are really trying to change the school and that we're not stopping. Like their attitude is like, because we've had past equity groups before, all of them have disappeared and like nobody knows where they have gone. So they know that like there's been a history of equity groups forming, but them disappearing. So they're thinking like, oh, SOAR is just one of those organizations where we're just gonna, disappear. So they're not really taking us seriously. But we're definitely trying to continue to make these events happen and trying to push for them and really work for them. But I feel like it's just all on the students.
I think that's awesome. It's interesting that you said, there was one incident where they said the N-word, and then a little later, like the N-word was said again. My Key West High School students, how many times a week is the N-word said at school?
Every
25 times a day.
Hour, every single second, all the time.
Like every minute of every day.
It's not even said by the Black kids, it's said by all the kids. It's every second of the day.
And there was one incident where it was said in one of my classes, and a student had like basically gone off on the kid, and then the teacher was like, oh, like what's going on? Like she was like wondering why it was so loud. And then we told the teacher what had happened, and then the teacher went over to the student, talked to the student, and then calmed him down, I guess, and then came back over to us, and she was like, oh, are you okay? Are you okay? But like nothing, like he didn't get sent to the office. Nothing was like further, like nothing else happened. He just got, calm down, and then that's it. And it's not only in the classrooms either. I remember it was after weightlifting practice one day, and I had gone into the lobby of the basketball gym, and one of the players who was white, one of the players, he was getting mad at the coach. He got mad at the coach, and like he's kind of he's privileged, obviously. So he bursted out of the gym doors, like just cursing up a storm, and it was like N-word this, N-word that. And when I tell you, everyone next broke, because we were like, who's saying that right now? Like, and it was just N-word that, N-word this, like a thunder of it. And then he walked right back in, like nothing happened.
Wow. Lyra,
I feel like when
Lyra?
Oh, hi. So by the way, I love your confidence and I just like you've inspired me to be as like educated and upfront with these things. But I just want to ask like for your club when you started it, I feel like a lot of high school clubs, like environmental stuff, whatever, they'll start and then it'll just be like a lot of nothing. Like how did you, I guess, like get it forming? Like how do you manage to be productive in every single club meeting? Like how did you even start, I guess?
Honestly, we started really, really rocky. We knew it was not going to be perfect because when we started, it was like right after that incident, and we're tired and we didn't know what to do. So we just threw it out an idea and we just started. That's like the main thing. Just start and it will go. We started last year, 2022 January. So our club is really new. So we just started, and our meetings are always not perfect, obviously, but we have meetings with our store leaders like every week to plan what we're gonna do for each meeting and how we're gonna make it fun and interactive. That's the main thing that we want to do, to make it fun and interactive, because a lot of times if you just do like a boring slideshow with like a video to watch, nobody's gonna listen to you. Let's be honest, nobody's gonna listen. We already do that way too much. So we're trying to make more interactive, fun games where people can actually listen. And we have TikTok and Instagram where we make like TikToks and a fun reel that we do, like things you should not say to POC, and we did like a skit where we acted out like microaggressions and stuff like that. So making it really fun for people to understand. We have like around 200 followers and a lot of people love our content. So we just started. That's the main thing. Just start, kick it off and see where it goes. Thank you. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah, thank you.
There is, like, I was just talking to Emily that like how like she just told me how there is a culture club at Key West High School, but it's not like it's not a culture club because not all cultures are in it. So like that would be like the perfect place to start. But something about like we have like I want to say like 1,300, like that's the cap, like 1,300 kids at our school. So the kids that are like involved aren't like people of color. Like they're the people of color, like most of them are involved, but it's not like all of them are involved. So having them go to a club meeting, like having them go to a student council meeting is hard sometimes. And that's your school, like that's the student council. You'd want to be a part of that. So being a part of like a culture club, I feel like since our school is like nobody really like we have a culture club, but there's nobody that I know of that's in that culture club. It's like mainly, I want to say Hispanic, huh? Oh, it's a friend group. So the clubs down here, they're just clubs, like they don't really focus on anything.
I feel like for our group is not really that big. We probably have like 30 members that we have, and it's really small. But I feel like the main thing that we're trying to do is start to make more events where we invite people. Like first, we're starting off with like an art showcase in our lunches where students basically submit art, and we're gonna play music from all over the world in all lunches. So it's not an event where people come to, like you will like automatically see that our store club is there, so we'll be able to promote our event there. So just starting with small things like that to promote our club and to promote community first, so people can be introduced to our club, is like one of the main things that we're trying to do to expand it. So if that helps a little bit, just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I honestly feel like I don't know if it's bothering the administration kind of is really helping. Like, don't just like, if we sat there, then our club would be so irrelevant. Because if you don't bother them, then they're just gonna like blow you off just like the other clubs, I feel like. And I don't want to say anything bad, but like I feel like our administration is very like performative, I guess. I feel like they don't really care about us that much. And it's very like they just want to show like that they kind of care. I don't know how to explain that, but it's so weird.
To add on to that, I feel like our administration is like Valerie and Dasmine said, they only care about about the vaping and like mental health. They don't really stress on any of like any culture stuff. Like we have every Wednesday, we have a wellness Wednesday thing where we have to watch videos about our well-being, and nobody really pays attention to that. So it's like there's no point in having any of that. Yeah. Like if we try to have like if we try to, I feel like if we try to go to administration and tell them about like having a club or like bringing more awareness into the culture and all that, they're not going to care as much because they don't really care about that. They're more worried about our mental health, like us doing that and the vaping in the bathrooms. That's all they really care about.
I think the other thing to kind of understand the culture of Key West, again, it's a very small island. We're 2 miles by 4 miles. If you, any day I go on Facebook, I see the superintendent, the junior superintendent, the principals from the other school, they're all at a party together. And then, so it's their kids and their grandkids who really, the whole school is built around. We call them, okay, I forgot what we call them, Valerie, go. They're the Bubbas. And that's well known. I mean, they're the Bubbas. Oh, you're a Bubba. And it's all about, one of my kids told me yesterday that somebody asked him, what's your last name? Because your name says everything about who you are and what you're gonna get. So if you're not a Bubba and you're not vaping in the bathroom, then nobody really cares about you, basically.
Yeah, and I just want to add on, like for the last point, I know it's 8 o'clock, but I just want to add on to what Emily said about how they're like using their time. Like the Soul Club used to do like Soul 100 videos, and there were like 100-second videos that we would share every month in the beginning of first hour class. It's like 100-second videos every month. And then we started doing it, and then we asked to do it like around the like a fourth time, and then they were like, this is taking away from time. Like AP classes need to be using their time more wisely during these like periods, but it's literally 100 seconds, and you'll spend time doing stuff on like pride or like focusing on being more responsible, but you don't want to show a 100-second video, like a 1-minute video every month. So it's really interesting. And like this summer, they spent all their money on making the gym floors renewed and getting more good bathroom stalls, but they don't have any money to teach diversity, or they don't have any money to incorporate these teachings in our classroom. So I feel like it's just absurd.
Just don't forget to get in good trouble. I guess that's the one thing that I want to stress, that I know sometimes, and especially in Key West, we feel like, do I want to be the one that steps out, because then there might be a target on me. But if it's good trouble, be willing to step out and speak up.
And I would say challenge more of the white students to participate. If you have friends who are white, are they participating in these events? Are they promoting it? I feel like challenge them to get more involved too. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Lyra. Valerie, I'm sorry.
No, I was a little shocked. You said to the white kids, and like we said before,
yeah, you're breaking up. Right. Yeah, Valerie, you're breaking up. We don't know what you just said.
She's gonna type it in the chat.
Okay. And that's an interesting question, Jenny, because we had a student, one of our white students, he was in my office today, and we posed a question to him about the N-word. So I think that's a good thing for us to do, is to get our white friends and challenge them to get in some good trouble.
Yeah, and I want to leave parting thoughts for the students, but I just want to say to like Ad and I in the group at SOAR, just keep doing what you're doing. I hope that organization is still there when my kids eventually get to Chaska High School, because I'm going to be stressing my kids to join that group, and I just want to see it flourish and remain there. So keep up the good work.
I think Valerie is trying.
Oh no, I'm good now.
Oh, well, we want to know what you said.
I lost my train of thought.
I heard Bubba and
something about the Bubbas.
Yeah, I said, you guys kept saying something about getting the white, like challenging the white kids. They're not worried about us. And they're challenging the white kids is a whole different step. There's not even a club. if there was like, it's just, that's a whole different step.
Why do you say that?
Okay, let's see. Key West High School's like, number one, we don't have like other schools, we don't have the same resources. Like other schools, they're able to protest without getting in trouble. They're able to have like walkouts, and like they're able to approve walkouts. We can't even approve. This is not like important, but we can't even approve like a Spirit Week theme. So being able to approve a walkout or even have like a bunch of different communities coming together is hard, let alone challenging white kids to like be a part of what we're trying to do.
I also want to add on that a lot of white kids, they're not educated. And it's like, if we do challenge them, it's like, you got to educate them. And a lot of them do not care. Like you try to educate them, but they wouldn't care. They'll just like, they'll pretend they're listening to you, and then they'll just like be okay. Like they won't care.
I also feel like it's just too liberal for them. Like in their head, it's like these two political things, and like being like, I don't know if you would call it woke, but just like knowing about these race things and these racial issues and advocating for it is like, you're such a liberal, like you're liberal for doing this. And there's just like, and then there's this big like culture of like I guess like republicanism, Trump, this kind of like idea where like you're cool if like this is how you think and how you are, and like they think it's kind of like weird or like too liberal or just like outside of their comfort zone to like not be racist, basically.
Valerie, did you see the question that was posed to you?
Yeah, I'm reading it right now. Whose iPhone?
Is that
I don't know.
Donzel?
It might be.
Okay. I don't even know how to.
And not only that, but homecoming queen in a PWI.
Oh, I can say why. So part of it, I feel like for me was that I don't only talk to one group of people. I talk to many groups of people, even if like we don't share the same like the same backgrounds. I talk to everyone like whenever I get the chance to. So I think that was part of it.
Remember, she wants to be a politician. So
and I listen to both sides of like I think it was sophomore year. I learned like listening to both sides, because obviously I have my own opinions, but like if you put those aside for a second and then you listen to both sides of each story, kind of you learn yourself, and then you see where you can go past that.
We already said we'd vote for Ed and I for president. So if you and Valerie want to hook up, I mean, I will support that ticket.
100% would vote for Ed and I for all of the things.
Yes.
Such an inspiration.
Yeah. I realize it's 8:07 and I know it's late for people in different time zones and I want to be respectful of time, but I just wanted to close with saying I am so thankful that everybody could join and participate and share all of your perspectives and thoughts, and hopefully this motivates some of you maybe to step out a little more. Hopefully some of the people who are parents or mentors to students, getting you more motivated to help the students in your lives. Thank you, Lynn, for helping with this, and Ed and I for bringing Charlotte and everyone to tonight's event. So with that, I'll just say thank you, and check out our website for Black History Month. We have some new resources posted, some cool stuff about Little Richard and whitewashing rock and roll music. And if you don't know who Little Richard is,
Donnie's podcast. It's very good. It's on Black history. You will learn so much. Maybe even tonight as you're getting ready for bed, just put it on and just listen to it. It's from the ARC organization. It's his latest podcast on Black history. I'm telling you, it's very, very good. And I think that you'll enjoy it and you will learn from it.
Yep. And Ed and I think Deep Dive is it next month in March?
Yes, March 15th, 7 p.m.
Okay. All right. So
And
look
Ad and I,
forward to-
you're free to use any of my students anytime. I volunteer them.
No, you guys.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Have a good week. Happy Black History Month, even though it's the 28th, but yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.